Hey, Miss Lady.
Hello there. How are you?
Good. Right on time. Lighting perfect. Sound is perfect.
Yeah, I can just kind of slide in where I need to slide in.
Now, I think you're perfect. You're centered. Oh my God, I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you. I'm still trying to get used to it.
I didn't get that compliment.
Love yours too. Hey, everyone. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we are still in Sacramento. And on today's show, I have with me two very special guests who are going to just pour into us all today about the current market and how to buy a home in a crowded market. I just finished listening to two broadcasts today, two press conferences, one this morning by Mayor Steinberg, and they're talking about the homelessness situation and the plan. They actually have a plan, an emergency plan for the city of Sacramento. And in this press conference, they talked about the plan. They talked about what the buildings were going to look like, the structures. I want to say they were tiny. It was a tiny home concept. So they discussed all of that. And then right after that, there was a press conference, a press briefing for the country. Because as you all know or may know, the eviction moratorium is ending at the end of September. And so that places a lot of people in jeopardy of being evicted. And when I say a lot, we're talking about millions of people who may potentially be evicted after the moratorium is up in September. And they discussed how the president has used all of his authority to put a pause on the moratorium. But at this point, there is nothing further that they can do. And he's not leaving it like that. The spokesperson said he's still researching to see what it is that they can do. But at this point, he is asking state and local governments to do what they can to further extend the eviction moratorium, at least an additional 2 months. He's also advising them to use other resources as they can, as well as making sure they make the funds that have been administered to them through the federal government more easily accessible, because they are getting a lot of feedback as they're assessing the system of the aid that has gone out, that there are a lot of states and local governments who aren't getting it out to the people fast enough. It's not getting into the hands of the people. The government has dispersed the funds, but local states and local cities are not making the process easy for individuals to access the funds. So that made me really excited, even more excited about today's show, for the purpose of the data that is now starting to come out about housing. Before we get started, I want to introduce my guests to you today. Miss Shaniqua Badger. Hey, lady, how are you doing? Say hi to everybody.
Hey, y'all. How are you?
Miss Shaniqua Badger is coming to us from the Bay Area, and she is someone that if you need a Bay Area referral, Shaniqua is one in the list who I'm referring. There's probably maybe one or two other people, but she's definitely at the top of the list. She's at the top of her game. And I just want to tell you all just a little bit about Shaniqua. She is the team leader of the Badger Real Estate Group, which is powered by Corcoran Global Living. She's in the top 10% executives circle, and she's appeared on Yahoo Finance as the top real estate entrepreneurs you need to know about in 2020. She's the top 15 in the Oakland real estate agents on social media for 2019 and 2020. And she is in the top 15 of San Jose real estate agents on social media in 2020 as well. She's also a board member of the San Jose Jazz. Is that the Jazz Festival or just San Jose Jazz, period?
Well, San Jose Jazz is the entity that throws the San Jose Jazz Festival. So anybody knows anything about the San Jose Jazz Festival, you know that we're one of the largest in the country. So it's always a good time.
Awesome, awesome. And her hand is in everything. As a matter of fact, she's out of town right now. And I'm
I'm back
happy.
in town.
Oh, she's back. See,
I'm back.
She's always in the sky going somewhere. So I'm just happy and blessed that I have the ability to connect with her, that she would make herself available to speak to us. So thank you so much, Shaniqua, for being on today's show.
Happy to be here.
And Mr. Eddie Johnson, you all have seen Eddie before. He is one of my lender partners extraordinaire. He is what I say, he's my go-to guy, because Eddie is like a mortgage computer. If you throw something at him, he's going to figure it out. He's just that way. And no matter how hard it is, and not only is he figuring it out, but he's figuring it out in a way where at the end of the day, if he can't do something with you immediately, he's giving you a plan where he will do something with you eventually. And so I really appreciate Eddie. I have to share with you all that Eddie has moved to a new company, and I'm excited for him because he is now branch manager at Premier Mortgage Lending. Am I saying that correct?
Premier Mortgage Resources.
Premier Mortgage Resources. Eddie, tell us about your new venture there. Fill everybody in.
Absolutely ecstatic about the transition, I'll call it. Before I was a sales manager, and I fixed a lot of loan scenarios, I guess you could say, for a large team. I came up with scenarios to help, when you have one product that ends up not working the way a loan officer originally thought it was going to work out. That's when I would step in and help organize and rework the situation until where we could get that file closed for that client, that purchase completed. Now my role is kind of, it's an unknown, because now I'm hiring and I'm coaching, and I'm still doing the sales manager aspect, but it's me now. There's nobody that is going to influence my immediate team. It's me. Everything comes back to me. So, but that's kind of where I was at, and it was the next evolution of my career, and that's the direction I wanted to go. And Premier gave me the opportunity to do that.
Awesome. And I'm excited for you. And we talked this morning, so you brought more of your team over with you. So I'm excited that you were all able to make that move. Miss Lindsay, and who else did you say came with you this morning?
Jamie.
Yeah. So if any of my clients are listening and you've worked with Eddie before, his whole team is making the move with him. And so you won't lose any of those individuals. So our show today, let's just jump right into it. How to buy a home in a crowded market. Why are we having this show? Because it is always a good time to buy, with a question mark. It's got to be a good time for you. Your situation, it has to be right for your situation. Not only does it need to be right for your situation, but we want to make sure that you have the tools and information to assess whether or not it's right for your situation. And so that's why on the show today, we have Shaniqua and Eddie coming from both an agent perspective, and not just an agent perspective, a high producing agent perspective, because you guys know I always say experience matters. And if you are a new agent, you need to get under an experienced agent in this market. If you are an agent who's been in the game a long time, you need to know what the experienced agents are doing so that you can represent your clients at peak level. And so that's why I have Shaniqua on. And Eddie, the same thing with mortgages and lending. You need a good lender partner who's going to be able to get in there and fight for you, because everybody's financials unravel differently. And I often hear people say, well, my friend told me that their loan went down like this, and I should be able to get this, and I should be able to get that. Well, they're probably not telling you everything. And not that they're leaving something out on purpose, but you just don't know. You might have a child support issue or a divorce issue, or they may have something, a 750 credit score where yours might be 680. All of those are things that make a difference, and they're things that you don't know make the difference until you have the information. And so, Eddie and Shaniqua, let's just start with the first question. Is the market cooling off, or is it revving up? Who wants to take that first? Ladies first.
Well, I think that is a loaded gun. That question is loaded, and we have to be able to figure out how we're going to discharge it. That is a yes and a no question, and that is very market specific. There are some markets where we're absolutely seeing it still be white hot and intense, and there's some markets, and there's even pockets in those markets where we're seeing it diffuse and soften a little bit, which is great. We know that there's some parts of the Bay Area, very small pockets, even in the city of Oakland, that we're seeing a shift in the market. We see certain pockets in the East Bay where we're seeing shifts in the market, but you go into different parts of the Bay Area, like the peninsula, where it's still super, super white hot. Go into some parts of Central Valley where we're seeing some shifts. And then, of course, you go into some parts of Sacramento where you're still seeing 13, 14 offers. So it really is going to be dependent on your experience, and this is going to be dependent on the agent that you have and the understanding of the market, so they can fully represent you in the best possible way.
Awesome. Eddie, how about you?
Okay. I feel like it's transitioning, in short. So it's not necessarily cooling, it's not revving up, it's transitioning. Just like our counterpart Shaniqua just said, it's different parts of the market, but for the last year, maybe year and a half, I've seen a lot of people upsizing, obviously, because of the fact that they have a ton of equity, they're working from home, they're like, shoot, I need an office space now, I need this, I need that. A lot of that has been completed already. To the point where we're seeing now a different aspect. I'm seeing a lot of Sacramento residents that were renting now be able to get into contract, which is great. I love it. I've been doing first-time home buyer seminars, and we did what St. Paul's was it? What was that?
Anchor home ownership.
Yeah, we did anchor home ownership. That was a blast. I absolutely love that. I still get calls on that now from people referring more people to me based off of what we did. But yeah, it's just transitioning. I'm seeing more local residents that are renting, getting into contract, which is a beautiful thing. I'm still seeing some people upsize, meaning selling and then buying again. With all the appreciation, they're carrying that equity over to their newer home that has more space or the amenities that they want to help them be comfortable. So it's just a transition. Rate environment is still awesome. It's incredible. And it's giving people more purchasing power. It's allowing them to do things that they didn't know that they could do.
Now, how are agents and buyers succeeding in this market? Because before we get to that question, and we need to take a break. So I'm not going to get into that. We're going to take a break. Then I'm going to ask you this question. Then we're going to come back with that question. We made a bet. And I told everybody on the show last week about this bet.
I'll plead the fifth.
Your bet was that the market was going to continue to increase. Mine was that by this time next year, the market was going to settle. I am already ahead on that bet.
Kind of mixed.
Well, I told you this morning when we chatted, I said we can amend that bet because you said, oh, I thought it was just till the end of this year. I feel so confident that the market is starting to settle. We can amend that bet to the end of this year.
You can still eat some chitlins.
And that was the bet, y'all, because I feel some kind of way about chitlins, and he professes to be the chitlin cooker king. Shaniqua, are you chitlins, pro chitlins, against
Oh
chitlins?
my gosh, this is
Okay.
killing me. It's hurting my heart.
Okay. So
See, and based on what the terms of that agreement was, I'd never give a friendly amendment to that. Based-
on chitlins.
I thought you were going to say you're going to Hawaii. You're talking about chitlins. Oh no.
Yeah, and so that is just how confident I feel about the market shifting, because I do feel about chitlins, but I feel confident that the market is going to shift. So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about what the market's doing right now, but how the two of you are still being successful in this market. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I'm Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Yes, girl, chitlins. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
You guys, if y'all are watching, feel free to comment and say something. I see that one of my channels is actually off. So I'm trying to remove it and add it back without ending the broadcast. Let me see what's going
Keisha,
on.
when did we start that bet?
When did we start the bet?
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, Eddie, maybe like a month ago.
No, it was longer than that. Definitely
No,
longer.
you've been trying to get me to eat chitlins for a long time. Is that what you're thinking about?
So I only do
Every
that for
time
New Year's.
Christmas
It's a
go
New Year's.
around.
It's a New Year's tradition, which leads me to think that we started that at the beginning of the year.
Oh, see, now you done bumped your head. Now
And I only say that to say.
See, now you're trying to adjust the terms so that it's.
I only say that to say. I helped people buy at the end of last year, where they're calling me back and they're like, Eddie, the same house that I just bought is up. It's appreciated 60, or they're selling it for 60,000 right around the corner. So if what I'm hearing is correct, I said that the market's going to continue to increase. I think I'm winning.
No, I just said you trying to amend the agreement so it's not like it's working out in your favor. We just made this bet a month ago, dude. Don't you think I would know when I agree to eating chitlins?
Hey, well, if you made a bet with me, I forgot. So you probably winning anyway. We cut or slice this.
I gotta say it. It's just like a man. Yes, my engineer looking at me like, wow. Y'all know you guys trying to twist stuff up and come on now, Eddie.
I'm not mad. I'll make you your ribs, but you can eat some chitlins too.
Oh yes, and so if I win, Shaniqua, he has to smoke me a slab of ribs. He is a very good cook. I've seen.
Oh, see that's in my wheelhouse.
Oh yeah. Yeah, all wood, charcoal. I got a new reverse flow smoker on the way. Competition style, I guess you could say. I could cook 2 briskets and 6 slabs of rib all at the same time.
That's what I'm talking about. See, that's near and dear to my heart. See, I'm a Texas girl, so we all about the brisket and the ribs, and everything's cooked better over an open fire.
But about them chitlins.
Now I will like for my mom, I have cooked chitlins, but that's for the person that gave birth to me. Everybody else, y'all on your own.
See, I didn't. For me, I can't even talk about it properly because it's just not something. Oh, we're about to come back on the air. Okay. The bet was 30 days ago, Eddie. It was not a year ago.
I'll take your word for it.
We're coming back. Hey everyone, we're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE, and on today's show, how to buy a home in a crowded market. My special guests, Ms. Shaniqua Badger of the Badger Real Estate Group, powered by Corcoran Real Estate, and Mr. Eddie Johnson of Premier Mortgage Resources. Is that correct? I got it right? And
Perfect.
these two are at the top of their game right now in the industry. And so we are asking them all the heavy questions. If you've got a heavy mortgage or purchase question or selling question, feel free to give us a call. You know, I have to look up the number 916 921 5333. Or if you're watching online, feel free to drop a comment in the comment line. We are on Facebook and YouTube. And I want to get into a question I was going to ask before we went on break. How are agents and buyers succeeding in this market? Who wants to take that one?
Very carefully. Um, no, but seriously, I think it's this was the market where I started seeing a change, or what we call a shift, where I start calling my clients saying, "Hey, load up the car, let's go and look at properties," because we as practitioners who are actually out here understanding the temperature, even when we see a slight variation in the temperature and the gauge of the market, we know when's a great time to react to it.
Right.
And so this is, to me, a very balanced market, as balanced as it can be. It's still an appreciating market, but it's a more balanced market. It's a market where the conditions kind of make sense for everybody. The
Right.
sellers are still happy. The buyers are now being able to participate with less competition. We're even seeing in some parts of the Bay Area where we're having contingencies that are still included in the terms of the contract. Whereas, 6 months ago, we were like, remove all contingencies,
Right.
throw paint on the wall to see if it sticks. Who cares about the appraisal? We're going to make up the difference, all kinds of craziness, right?
So are you saying that you're starting to see, and I don't know if it would be too drastic or extreme to use the word settling in the Bay Area, but is that kind of what you're implying when you say that?
I don't know if it's settling. I just think it may be like we are more like doing a slow waltz versus a tango. But we still dancing.
Yeah.
A sprint versus a brisk jog,
Yeah, we're still dancing.
Yeah.
So I think that for agents, when we talk about on the agent side or the practitioner side, the best thing we can do is really kind of be in the market and really understand kind of how agents are receiving offers, because guess what? Every market has a different culture around offers.
Right.
That is a fact.
Right.
What they're doing in Stockton is maybe not the same thing that they're doing in Oakland. What they're doing in Oakland may not be the same thing they're doing in San Francisco.
Mhm.
And that is the same thing for Sacramento. So we have to understand the culture of the market as well as the conditions of the market. So that means that you have to be 10 toes down
Right.
when it comes to being able to do this. And then also understanding on the buyer side, what is your capacity? What's the capacity of the loan officer? We don't want to blow out the capacity of the loan officer because we're trying to get the deal, and then we get into the deal and the loan officer may have conditions that they just can't execute in a timely manner. So we have to be able to communicate that with our loan officer partners as well. And I think the loan officers appreciate that, because we saw for a certain period of time where it was just really hard to get an appraisal out. So on the practitioner side, it's we having to understand how to navigate the market. On the buyer side, it's having to work with a practitioner, agent, loan officer who understands those conditions, and then be coachable. Because understand, like, we're doing this for your benefit. We're not doing this for our benefit. So if you're coachable, we can absolutely help you navigate this market without feeling as much anxiety and bumping your head as much. I mean, you're going to get told no, but you may not be told no all the time.
Those are excellent points.
I'd rather participate in a 3 offer scenario versus a 15 all day long.
Right. That part. I really appreciate you bringing up the fact about, depending on where you are, it's cultural and how what the process is, how transactions get done. And I want to go back to that. But before I do, Eddie, I want to ask you, what are you seeing as far as what helps buyers to be able to succeed and agents succeed in this market?
I like how Shaniqua said who you work with. We really are a team.
Mhm.
You know, we have real estate agents, then you have loan officers, but the buyer or seller, they're employing us to help them through the process. The more we communicate, the more personalities mix, the better. If you get off the phone as a buyer or a seller with your counterpart that's helping you achieve what you're trying to do, and you fully understand the situation, you're like, man, I'm ready to go. That's where you should be.
Mhm.
You shouldn't be leaving a ton of messages, waiting for email replies, wondering what's going on. These communication has to happen. That's the first step. Once we achieve that, and you have the right team, and you have all the understanding of what the process is going to be, how much it's going to cost you, you know, how long our contingency periods are, whatever the case may be. Once we have that, and you're out there looking, how we're succeeding in getting clients in the contract and getting them into their homes is by I always say, understanding seller motivation.
Mm. Mhm.
As much as you could have a bunch of contracts, the seller has to go through, you know, 5 or 6 offers on their house. They're going to pair with the offer that best is paired with what their plans are.
Right.
Sellers have plans too. They could be relocating out of state. They could be waiting on a new build. They could be moving in with family. There could be a lot of situations. And one of the pieces may not be somebody just coming in over asking price.
Mm.
That person coming in over asking price that needs to be in the house in 15 days might not work for them.
So you're saying that it's important for then, because it's the buyer's agent obligation to check with the listing agent to find out what the seller's needs are
Mm-hmm.
in order to help form a strong offer in that regard, right?
Agent and lender.
Mhm.
As a lender, I want to make sure I can meet what the seller's needs are. Because what if it is a quick close? You know,
Mhm. Right.
that needs to be communicated to me up front so I can prep my team for everything we need to do in order to make sure that file gets to the finish line.
And that's to Shaniqua's point that she made about not blowing things up by putting too much pressure or expectations on the lender that the lender can't meet. Then you get in the transaction and then it blows up.
My hair's already gone, so, and it's turning gray when I do see it. So
Well,
I deal with
I
the
cut
stress.
mine, so that's there was nothing for me to pull out.
Even short,
Yeah.
there's less of a fall.
No,
I want to go back to Shaniqua's point because she brought up the fact that transactions are different depending on where you are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very quick to refer people to other agents. I try to build really strong relationships in other areas where I know I have clients who want to buy. I will represent someone in a sale in the state of California as long as I'm able to get to the location. But when it comes to buying, one of the things that I say is that you have to know that area. If you're an agent representing a buyer in a particular area, you need to know the neighborhoods. You need to have a relationship and rapport with the agents. These are things, and Shaniqua, you can let me know if you agree with that or if you have something more to add to that. You need to know the culture. I never said that before, but I like that she said that because there is a culture. I know in the Bay Area, when I represent buyers from the Bay here in Sacramento, the first thing that they are dismayed by is the fact that they have to pay for inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Bay, what do y'all do?
We get our inspections done up front on our listings. We
So
disclose everything.
It's on the seller, right?
Yeah.
But out here, inspections are on the buyer. So that's a cultural difference. And
so let me back up to that. So you can, so we do it for a very specific reason for our listings, right? It's to remove the noise of in the negotiations, right? We're putting it on the table, all on the table. We price it according to the condition that we can know as fact and material and fact, right?
Mhm.
We put it all out on the table. So our price is our price, right?
Mhm.
That does not mean as a buyer that you cannot go in a market that is softening and say, I'd like to have my own inspection done if that's okay, because we see certain things in the inspection that was not, that we don't feel comfortable with, or maybe the agent like me says, I don't really like that inspection team. I don't really know them too well, right? Or I've had experience with them and they're not the most thorough inspection team. Because
Right.
by far none, I've had a client who had the inspection done beforehand, and I was like, where is the pictures for the pest report? And how do you have pictures for a pest report and you have a pest report, there's no pictures to
Diagram.
substantiate what's going on, right? Then we went and performed those inspections, and guess what? There were termites, and we could go in and renegotiate, right? Because what
Wow.
happened was that agent was an out of area agent in Southern California. They weren't present at all. So the pest inspector took advantage of that and tried to bid for a condition that didn't exist. So that you have to understand the reasoning why we do this. So that does not mean that you should not do your inspections. But again, that's a cultural thing. Are you in an environment where you can ask for inspections and not blow up the offer, right? The strategy part.
Right.
So your agent has to be able to understand that.
And I agree with that strategy. And I often offer that to my sellers, especially if we know that there are some things going on in their property before we list it. And we say, for the same reason, to mitigate any issues before we get into any offers, let's see what we might end up running into. And there was a question by Miss Tara. Thank you for joining us today, Miss Tara. She says, would it be advisable to do an FHA cash out refinance to pay off debt, and then 6 months later do a refinance to a conventional loan to remove PMI? Eddie, I think that's Eddie question.
Yeah, that's a me question. I commented at it's in the private chat though. So I'm not against it. If we do multiple refinance with a short period of time, what you want to do is minimize any type of fees, right? Because you don't want to pay high fees first time and then 6 months later pay high fees again. That's the only thing that I would say I would watch out for. Generally, we go FHA because there's credit blemishes that are hampering a score to where we have to use FHA financing to solve the issue. As long as that cash out pays off that debt, credit scores go back up, that's going to put you in the best position to get that conventional low 30-year, 15-year, whatever it is you're looking for without mortgage insurance.
So you're saying be strategic about any cash out refinances.
Yes.
To get PMI is a good strategy, but to do it, make sure that the costs are right.
Costs are right. A lot of people don't know that FHA mortgage insurance isn't always permanent. So if you have a refinance that's completed, or you're buying FHA and you're buying it with 10% down using FHA financing, and FHA mortgage insurance isn't permanent then. It'll be on your loan for 11 years, and then after 11 years, it falls off.
So these are things that debunk, and I don't want to call them myths because they are facts, where, now the PMI mortgage insurance, we are told in general, the general rule of thumb is that PMI insurance stays with an FHA loan. But you're saying there are certain circumstances where it does not.
Correct.
Can I play devil's advocate on that?
Sure.
So, in my opinion, I'm going to say that the one thing that we can understand are the conditions of the market right now versus the market in like 6 months, right?
I was going to go there too. Because rates might not be advantageous to where in 6 months, I mean, what if you refinance on a 30-year fix? FHA is incredible right now. I mean, we're at 2.875, 2.625. Yeah, you're paying mortgage insurance, but if you got 10% equity in 11 years, the mortgage insurance falls off. We're on a conventional in 6 months. What if we're at 3.5? 3.5, 4% in 6 months. I don't anticipate it happen, but if it was the case, the monthly payment might be the same. There's not going to be a huge benefit refinancing out of your FHA, especially when the mortgage insurance will fall off down the road.
Yeah. So I to speak to that is understanding kind of what is the best strategy for the present, not necessarily the future. Now, it's okay for you to visualize what's going on in the future, but if you were to pick the two, which two would you want? Which two would be the best for you from a financial perspective, right?
Most
If you want to
definitely.
play the games of self-economics, which makes a better sense right now because we can control what's going on right now. We can't necessarily control what's going on in 6 months, 18 months, 24 months, right? So I think that that's why having a conversation with somebody like Eddie to really kind of understand the moving parts, because real estate is cyclical. We never know. We may see a reset of the market come 2022 when we are having a full year of the new administration's budget. That could affect the interest rate, and it likely will.
Right.
But COVID might affect the interest rate if we see an uptick in the numbers and they shut us down again. So what you can do is control the controllables now, and then seek guidance from a lender for sure. And then that way you can make a very intentional move that can affect you positively now.
Yeah,
Right.
the worst thing you could do is not explore your options, though.
Right.
You have to explore your options. With the appreciation that's happened right now, I have clients we didn't advise it before, paying off cars, because I mean you're literally rolling into your house payment. But I had a client that's got, I think, 10,000 on 2 cars that their payments are like $700 a piece. We're saving like $1,100, and they used that $1,100 to shorten their term on their house. Their payment only went up $500, but they're still saving the additional cash, reduce their term to expedite their payoff. So just find out your options.
That brings me to our next question. And this one is a little sensitive because it's financing. It's regarding financing. Do you find, either of you find, that financing or the type of financing that a buyer uses, whether or not it plays a role in whether or not their offer gets accepted? How many offers you are seeing get accepted when they're cash, when they're FHA, when they're VA, when they're conventional versus? Is financing playing a role?
I'll take this one first. I wish that it didn't, but I do think that it does. I wish that there was more education behind the differences between the three. When I say difference three, because we're dealing generally with FHA, VA, and conventional loans when we're doing resale or new build. And FHA is it's peeling paint, it's dry rot, it's health and safety. But to that measurement, a conventional loan, if you walk in a house and it's got water spots and the roof is bowing, they're going to say it in the appraisal. And if it's called out in appraisal, then an underwriter sees it, it's going to be called out no matter if it's an FHA or it's a conventional loan.
Now, that's the difference that we're hearing, is that in FHA's, the standards for getting an FHA loan processed are higher and more challenging than conventional. Are you saying that that is true, or are you saying that?
Those standards generally are peeling paint and dry rot. If there's something visual to the appraisers, and I like on a purchase, if a buyer does a home inspection or a pest inspection, the inspectors are grown and they'll poke wood and look for soft points for dry rot. An appraiser is not going to do that. An appraiser is the only person generally that's going to make the difference between an FHA loan and a conventional loan for getting that offer accepted.
And what do you mean?
It's all visual.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. By what he sees.
By what he sees, correct. If peeling paint, it's got to be fixed. If it's dry rot, that's visual to the eye. The eaves on a house or decaying and there's wood falling down, yeah, that's not an FHA file. If they covered up, they paint it, and the buyer's okay with it, because I mean, shoot, it's Home Depot, a piece of plywood. It's not that expensive, But knowing how to do it and paying a contractor to fix those items is a different story if you can't do it yourself. I have clients that would love to buy houses all the time and would love to go conventional, but they can't. We have to go with FHA. And as long as a lot of times we communicate with the listing agent and say, hey, our buyer's 100% in on this house. What do we need to do to get it done? We can go FHA, we can do an escrow holdback, which means the cash to do the repairs are complete. We're put into escrow, and we complete the transaction in the buyer's name, and the repairs are done after everything's done.
You're saying this is an option that if you are an FHA buyer, this is an option that you explain to the listing agent to encourage them to accept this FHA offer.
Correct. I've seen that. I've seen windows be issues, things that we've solved that question or that problem by doing EEM loans. EEM is an energy efficient mortgage where I've replaced the whole entire roof post escrow. I've replaced windows, and the client's payment didn't change, but more than I think it was $70. And we got a whole new roof and we got windows. So there's ways to do it. You just got to talk about it.
Right. So then before I say what I'm going to say, I want to ask Shaniqua to comment on that question.
Well, I think there is an education disparity there for sure with buyers, sellers, and their agents. I won't pretend like we're not part of the problem, because we are, because we're the ones that are the nuts and bolts to the escrow piece itself and the sales process. But what I will say is there is a legitimate concern around the appraisal. And I've personally been a victim of it in the Bay Area, where we have people who are not from certain parts of the Bay Area who are appraising the Bay Area. And there are biases that are affecting the quality of the appraisal. And I recently had a appraisal. I've never seen this before, that said, I am not from this area. If you have a problem with the report, get another report from another appraiser. I had never seen that written into the appraisal before. And I was like,
and what were the results of the appraisal? Was it
girl, you've underbid us $60,000 and missed the whole comp. What about this comp right here? And the lender refused to replace the appraisal, and it blew up the transaction. And
wow,
the rest was not a happily ever after. And so that wasn't a win for the buyer or the seller.
And in that situation, you got to know your lender and how they operate. We have what are called reconsiderations of value that we can do. We can opt for. It doesn't mean that's going to happen, but we can go to the appraiser and say this. If that specific situation happened, that's a red flag for me. I mean, that needs to go to the AMC, the appraisal management company, because that's not verbiage that they should be putting on an appraisal.
It was wow.
Yeah, and that needs to be reviewed. If they legitimately missed a comparable or they didn't make the right adjustments on their appraisal, it's a service that we pay for.
Or they're admitting that they're not from the area. Can we start there?
Yeah.
So honestly, literally, they were from, I think, Albany or Orinda, doing an East Oakland appraisal, and that evaluation probably was dead in the water. You pull up on an on-ramp or an off-ramp to get into the city of Oakland, and you see homeless people, and don't tell me a bias can't affect or the quality of the neighborhood or something that is outside of your wheelhouse of understanding the culture of the city, or the property values isn't going to affect your outcome. And it was shocking. And I was on the listing side, and my seller, that we couldn't get the numbers to work, and I put in a complaint on that appraiser.
And to an appraiser's defense too, because I have friends that are appraisers too. It is a very busy market, and in the Bay Area, I've had several Bay Area deals to where they're 2.5, 3 weeks out from being able to do an inspection. We as lenders and agents, we want to meet a specific timeline. We rush. We need this back as soon as possible, to the point where somebody might take it. They might not do their due diligence, or they're coming from somewhere else to try to take care of that time manner. But we just got to be careful about requesting rushes so much to the point where somebody is coming from a different area to solve our appraisal needs and actually are making the matter worse.
Shaniqua,
Yeah.
now Eddie had gave his perspective from a lender's point of view regarding whether the type of financing affects offer acceptance. What were your thoughts when you heard him give his response?
Well, he's right. There are the three main loan programs that we're looking at, which is conventional, FHA, and VA. And today's seller thinks that conventional is the way to go, because there's less, how should I say, there's less red tape. It seems like it's a little bit more easier of a client to get through escrow because they're not as sensitive on the appraisal. Does that mean that is right? No, it doesn't necessarily mean it's right. There's many times that even though on the listing sheet it says we're only going to accept cash and conventional, I'm like, well, no one else is dealing with you, so you might as well take this FHA so you can get to the closing table. We're here to solve problems at the end of the day, and the seller wants to sell. They're motivated, and we can help solve that problem of them not being able to sell in a timely manner. And sometimes we just have to get them on the phone with the lender to really have them get an understanding of the quality of the client that we're presenting. And like Eddie said, that there's ways that we can help navigate the lack of education around this. And many times if we don't try, then we can't say that we've completed our fiduciary obligation of representing the interest of our clients.
Yeah, I actually have two in contract right now where they were cash only on the MLS notes. And my buyer was like, I like the house. Why won't they accept it? I was like, I don't know. That's a great question. Let's call and find out. We went and called and found out, and they were accepting cash only because it was a tenant issue and they were selling it as is. I was like, well, do we know the condition of the house? My buyer's willing to work through whatever we need to do. And one of them was, hey, the agent talked to the seller and he says, hey, as long as they're willing to work with us getting the renter out, yeah, I don't care. And we were able to get that house in the contract. It's been 45 days and we knew it was going to take time, but our buyer was willing to work with the seller's needs. So that goes back to one of the other questions, is just how are we succeeding this morning in this market, is just knowing what the seller's motivation is.
And thank you for bringing that back full circle, because I want to make sure that those people who are listening and watching today are actually getting the information that they need if they are looking to buy or thinking about buying, and maybe feeling a little discouraged or feeling like there is, feeling a little in despair, that there are solutions out there and that you don't have to take what you see at face value. Eddie just brought up a good point. In MLS, it will say whether or not a seller is accepting an FHA. It'll say cash only or conventional only or both. It doesn't mean that your agent can't pick up the phone and call that listing agent and find out why, and work with the lender to figure out, okay, we've got an FHA loan. What can we do to mitigate in advance? Get on the side of the seller, meet any issues that they might have. What has the listing agent told their seller about an FHA loan that the seller is now saying we won't take an FHA loan?
And it may not be a situation around FHA, right? Again, this is a lack of education on the practitioner and with the seller, right? We can go in there and say, if it's a condition issue, then let's think about renovation loan at that point. Right. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and us as real estate professionals, we have to at least have a very high level of those loan programs so we can kind of pivot where we need to pivot. And us having great strategic partners allows us to have the knowledge to pivot and know who has the best resources for that client to be able to pivot in this market. And as the market continues to walk into a light waltz two-step, these are the conversations we're going to start having more and more and more, because the days on the market, they're going to be longer. We're going to see less buyer activity. And so we're going to be able to have the opportunity to have this level of conversations with sellers and their listing agents to give our buyers the best opportunities possible.
I love that response. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to close out and give you both an opportunity to share your final thoughts with our audience. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we will be right back.
So we on the radio.
Yes.
I made it.
Yes, we are on the radio. We're on social media, but you got a much broader audience on the radio. You've got
that's awesome.
97.5 listening audience who call in all the time, and I know that people are listening because I always get emails from the station manager of people saying, "Hey, I heard you," and such, and asking tons and tons of questions. So before we get off the show, I want you both to give your contact information on how people can reach you, because if you don't give it, they're going to be asking me. So
done deal.
I did have a call. Oh,
yeah, two, but you were on the road.
Oh, okay. We had 2 calls, but he said we were in the mix. But so Eddie, you asked this morning about the question. See, we only got to number 4, and I skipped over number 3 because we talked about it. But when we come back from the break, we have until 1:56. So what I would like to talk about is just kind of get a little bit more into what's moving the market, the trends versus what's actually happening, and how
moving the market in terms of real estate or driving mortgage rates.
Both real estate and mortgage rates, because you're the mortgage guy. You're the mortgage guy.
I'll let Shaniqua talk to what's moving real estate, but
right.
I can talk about the markets.
Yep. So we'll try to do that in 3 minutes.
Minute and a half apiece.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Take a minute and a half and just try to summarize what's coming and how they should prepare. And Shaniqua actually already leaned towards it when she said, what'd you call it? A slow step? The waltz.
Slow waltz.
Slow waltz. It's coming. The slow waltz is happening. How does this compare to the and then the advice? Okay, so we're probably going to have just enough time to talk about that. Fiddlesticks.
But you did good, though. I said you were going.
Yeah, I came in here a little burdened, y'all, but it was okay. Private message. Oh, Eddie, that was your message to Tara. Did she get that, or did you send that to me?
Oh, I thought I was replying to Tara, but it was a private chat. I saw that. I was like, oh, okay. I was multitasking. I saw her question. I tried to answer it in chat, but it didn't work out that way. I think I have to log in to be able to do that.
Okay. Great information. As my sister said, great information, sister. Great color on you. Oh, thank you. I didn't get it. You didn't get what? Oh, the message? I'm going to paste it right here. Let me know if you see it. Hey everyone, we're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and today's show, How to Buy a Home in a Crowded Market. And we just have a couple more minutes left, and I want to make sure that our guests get an opportunity to answer the last question that we have for them. And that is the market going forward. How would you advise? How would you explain what you see happening as far as the trend? Shaniqua from a real estate perspective, Eddie from a mortgage perspective. What's trending? What should we expect? How should buyers prepare?
Yeah, it's funny. Now we have to have these conversation of what's on trend as if it's fashion.
Mm,
Um,
that part.
I do think that we will see a slight shift. I don't think that the idea that America is going on clearance because of the moratorium or forbearance removals will have a big impact in the appreciation. I know that some people that think that they're going to be able to get homes on rollback prices. That may not be the case. I
Mhm.
do think that we are likely to see a shift in the interest rates. So with that being said, when I say shift in the interest rates, that means that they'll be going up. When, I don't know. How much, I don't know. But at some point, they're likely to start going up. So if that being the case, even in an appreciating market, you should position yourself to buy now and not later.
Mhm. Very good. And so when you said the trend as if it's factual, because why do you say that? I don't want to,
Oh no,
I
I
know
said
how
as
you
if
say it, but
I
why
said
do you
as
say it?
if it was fashion.
Oh,
What's on
fashion.
trend?
Okay, okay. I thought you said factual. And I was thinking because what is normally what happens typically in a market these days is actually not happening. Like so right now, going into the fall, we can typically expect for the real estate market to settle because people are starting to settle into school, the holidays are coming up. But with COVID, with all of the things that have been thrown at us financially, we don't know what to expect. You know, you
Yeah.
mentioned interest rates possibly going up. Eddie, can you speak to that?
Yeah, we're still in kind of a global market. So yeah, the Fed
What does
does
that mean?
control.
Break that down for the layperson.
Global market means that if the China to the Asian markets crash, means that's going to affect our rates.
Mm,
If the UK has a large COVID kick up, that's going to affect our rates. There's different things that happen around the globe that affect the way people invest. And
mm,
mortgage-backed securities or rates are based off of mortgage-backed security. It's bought and sold on the secondary market, just like a stock.
mhm,
Um, and what is bought and what isn't bought depends upon what's happening out there on the market.
mhm,
So from that perspective, inflation makes a difference. If COVID shutdown happens, that makes a difference. Um, and like I said, global events, it all makes a difference. They are talking about the Fed backing off, tapering off on bond purchases. They are, purchasing a large amount of mortgage-backed securities right now.
mhm,
But what will happen is if everything else is not paying dividend, the private sector will be buying mortgage-backed securities also.
mhm.
So it will taper up a little bit, but I don't think we're going to ever. Well, I'm going to say ever, but we're not going to be in that 4.5 to 5 range for an extended period of time. I think we still have a year or two for that.
Okay, that's good to know. And that's in layman's terms. So we can expect for interest rates, even if they do hit up in the 3%, y'all, even if they hit the high three, that's still a very good interest rate.
Mhm.
And it is time for us to go. I wish we had more time because I had more questions. But before we go, I would like for Shaniqua and Eddie to both let everybody know how to connect with you. Shaniqua, what's the best way? If they want to hear more from you, have more questions for you, how do they reach out to you?
I'm on all social platforms with the exception of TikTok, and
You're not talking,
I'm not
girl.
TikTok yet. I'm sure my assistant's gonna make me TikTok in the
So,
next 2 to 3 months. But so far, I haven't transitioned into doing anything but watching TikToks that my daughter sends to me. But I'm on all social media sites. You can find me with a simple search of my first and my last name. The great thing about having a very unique
unique
name is
names.
no one else has it. So it's pretty easy to find me. And then if you want to find what my team is doing, you can look under all social media platforms at the Badger Real Estate Group.
Awesome. And Mr. Johnson, how do we reach you?
Yeah, my two best contacts is by email and cell phone. My cell phone is 916-549-3412. Email address Eddie, EDDIE, dot Johnson, JOHNSON, at pmrloans.com.
P as in
P as in Paul, M as in Mike, R as in Robert, pmrloans.com.
thank you. And that PMR, I wanted him to say, he didn't say Premier Mortgage Resources. Eddie Johnson, Premier Mortgage
Military.
Resources. So thank you both for appearing on the show today and blessing us with your information, education, skill, wisdom, and time. And remember, you all, if you are doing what you were created to do, I will see you at the top. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And yeah, we didn't appear on one channel. Who knows what happened? I'll just put it back up on that one afterwards.
This was fun, everyone.
Yes. So thank you guys both. And I will see you next time. I'm going to let you get back to your day, but I'll be reaching back out to you for something else. I'm just putting a pin in it. All right, y'all. Bye, you guys.
All right, we'll see you.
Take care.